Our good friend Andrew Krabuschitz is back with us. He's the visionary, I would say the genius behind redballoon.work, a website that connects like-minded businesses and Americans who seek the freedom to work without the fear of discrimination against personal beliefs, infringement on their constitutional rights, or invasion of medical privacy. What an idea, right? Andrew's got quite the business resume. He's worked in the high-tech industry for over 20 years, but last year, Andrew founded redballoon.work. You can click on the link below to check it out. Wait till you check out this resource. This website, I got to say, it's been nothing less than a real game changer. I've heard from you guys telling me this. It's at the heart of the new parallel economy that's rising up, that's declaring its independence from all things woke, and unabashedly celebrates faith, family, and freedom. And Andrew is here to tell us about some more amazing resources, hot off the press, as it were, that he has available for all of you, whether you're an employer or an employee. So, Andrew, welcome back, my friend. Great to see you again.
Thanks for having me. I know I'm having a good day when I get a chance to talk to you and all the lovely people in the Turley Talks universe.
Amen. Right back at you. Well, for those who have never heard of you before, they didn't see our last chat that we had. Can you just give them a quick share about how you came to found Red Balloon?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in the Bay Area. I did the .com thing. Learned a lot, but then I was an early adopter of getting out of the state of California. I got tired of traffic and liberals. And so I moved up to beautiful Idaho, where I was able to found actually quite a few businesses, a 3D printing business, a student information software business, a labor market data business, which actually grew from 3 employees, and I was one of those 3, to 280 employees. Wow. And sold it a number of times. So we had a bunch of these exits, and exits are really cool because you get big checks, and they're not cool because you lose control. And so about a year and a half ago, my board, the new board, now owned by KKR, which is Big Bad Private Equity out of New York. My new board said, you know what, you're a little too conservative and Christian for our liking. So we're going to move a different direction. That's how you fire CEOs. You just say, we're moving a different direction. So I found myself delightfully unemployed. And I thought, well, maybe this is an opportunity to see if I can bless people who are maybe in the same situation that I'm in, where you just lost your job because you actually held the line. And I'm going to brag on my wife for a little bit. When I lost my job because I wouldn't walk away from my Christian faith and my beliefs in the workplace, she bought me a very nice bottle of scotch as a way to go do the right thing. I love that very much. So I find myself delightfully unemployed, and I thought, well, maybe there's a lot of other people in the same boat, and I would love to be able to be in a position to help them. So that's where redballoon.work came from. It's called Red Balloon because if you've ever been on a hot air balloon, it's a little bit terrifying, but it's a lot bit fun, kind of like looking for a new job. And red, well, everybody's looking for freedom these days in red states or red regions of blue states or red companies. And so that's why redballoon.work. And work is actually deeply satisfying. God gave us work to do. There was work in the Garden of Eden before sin. So work is good. So redballoon.work. And .com sounded too much like communist to me, and we don't want communists, we want work. So that's where redballoon.work came from.
I love it. Redballoon.work. You guys got to check it. Wait till you see the resources he has on there. It's amazing. You mentioned something about, well, we were talking earlier before we went on air about refugees, people who are leaving their solid blue states and rushing to find freedom and an oasis, conservative oasis in red state. One of the fascinating things that just happened in a blue state was last week a New York judge ordered that anyone who had been fired for rejecting the COVID mandate has to be rehired, and I believe they're owed back pay as well. That's right. Pretty impressive development there. Where do you see? I mean, this is your bread and butter now. I mean, you're immersed in the stuff, frontline stuff. Where do you see the job market changing for conservatives over the next year, maybe particularly in blue states like New York?
Yeah, and let me give you some stats, and I'm going to pick on the medical field for a little bit. So if you take the whole medical field, so that's doctors, nurses, medical practitioners, all those people. If you look at 2020, right before the pandemic, you had 1.2 million unfilled job openings. So those are employers saying, look, I'm looking for people. I can't find people, 1.2 million job openings. And so that's saying that, look, there's a lot more demand in the market than there is supply of talent. You fast forward to January of 2021, we've now gone through this pandemic. Medical workers are working 14, 15 hours a day. They're exhausted. But guess what? There actually was still only 1.2 million new job openings on the market. So medical people actually care about people. And they thought, no, I'm going to stick with this thing. Then the vaccine mandate gets introduced. And we started seeing 100,000 new unfilled positions in the medical industry every month. 100,000 new, and this is nationwide. And so it goes from 1.2 million to the end of 2021, you had 2 million unfilled jobs in the medical field. And that problem was the most acute in, believe it or not, blue states, where those people were being oppressed in lots and lots of different ways. I saw one story, a hospital in New York said, look, if you are having a baby right now, you need to find somewhere else to go. You need to go find the back of a taxi cab or wherever you're going to go, because we simply don't have the staff to handle that. Another hospital said they had one nurse for every 30 patients. Imagine a world, if you're that nurse, you're going to be totally exhausted, right? Because they're putting these vaccine mandates on there. And so what I think this judge is trying to do is they're trying to stem the tide of people getting out of blue states where their freedom has been oppressed and actually try and keep people around. Now, what are they going to do once those people decide, okay, fine, I'm going to stay here? I'm afraid they're going to go right back to it. But definitely a step in the right direction. You should get your money back if you've been wrongfully terminated for having your freedom stepped all over. But I think that people are still going to continue to leave, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately for the blue state, for people just trying to get along with their lives in the blue states and try to stay out of politics. But unfortunately, if you have nothing to do with politics, politics will have a lot to do with you. That's the problem.
Yes, they will. Yes, they will. And here's another stat for you. If you look at the 2020 tax returns, and this is through 2020, the number of people that the net out-migrators from the state of New York, look how many people leave. You have 250,000 people leave the state of New York, taking with them $19 billion of taxable income.
Yeah.
So $19 billion, and that's annual taxable income. So this is long-term taxable revenue for those states. And they're going to places like Florida and Texas and red states. And so what's going to happen? Well, New York's not going to be able to balance their budget because $19 billion of taxable income just left. And so places like Florida are going to have budget surpluses, which guess what? They do. And New York's not going to be able to balance the budget. So they're going to decide, you know what? Let's raise our taxes. That'll solve the problem. Right. And it won't solve the problem. And so I think you're going to see red states continue to win and blue states continue to lose until they change their policy. And you'd think that they would understand this cause and effect thing, but I'm afraid that seems to be beyond them right now. And they're sticking with their guns and just continuing to enforce these crazy policies on their poor populace.
Yeah. They're ideological blinders, as it were. Yeah, it's pretty sad. So I have been to redballoon.work, and I have noticed that you have some new resources there. What's really cool, gang, if you haven't seen this site, when you click on the link below, you check it out. They've recently grown to not only just help freedom-loving patriots find new jobs after getting canceled in their workplace, but to also help employees rediscover their rights and stand up for themselves at work. And you have published an employee bill of rights. Can you elucidate that? What is an employee right?
Yeah. Well, so where this came from is and I'm going to throw some more data at you, but in America, $18 billion is spent annually on DEI training. That's diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is unconscious bias. You're a racist and you're a racist. And you think that, just horrible, horrible training. And actually, I would argue that DEI training is actually a liturgy to try and break down the American worker so that they cannot be courageous in other aspects of their life, right? If you are torn down at work constantly and you're basically told to bow the knee to the current zeitgeist, It is really hard for you to be brave and courageous in your community, in your church, in your family. And so I think it is actually intentional. So this $18 billion is spent on DEI resources, let alone the cost of the loss of productivity or the demoralization of the workforce that goes along with that training. So this is what's happening in America today, $18 billion. In fact, Intel committed $300 million over 10 years, just one company, for DEI training and unconscious bias training. I talked to one worker who had actually just moved from Boston down to Tennessee. And he said he was told on a regular basis at work, you're a racist. And if you don't acknowledge that and repent of it every single day, then we're going to have to let you go. And you're just not going to be in a position to get a raise, to get a promotion at our organization. So that's the scale of the problem that we're seeking to solve. And so we thought, how do we give these people the resources? Because knowledge is power, right? Steve, we know that knowledge is power. If you know where you're allowed to stand up, where you're going to win the lawsuit, or even where you're going to lose the lawsuit, at least you're going into the battle with your eyes wide open. And so that's why we put together this free resource, the Employee Bill of Rights and Responsibilities. And that's kind of an important point because the founding fathers understood rights and responsibilities actually go together. And if you're an employee, you have rights, but you also have responsibilities. And so this is a free resource. Go to redballoon.work/bill, and you can download this free resource. It's written by a lawyer who went to Harvard, is a wonderful Christian lady who actually was a labor lawyer in the People's Republic of California for 20 years, fighting the good fight, trying to stand up for rights. So she knows where she's coming from on this document. Some of the rights she's going to point out are actually inalienable rights. They're given to you by God, right? We need to remember our rights are not given to us by our government. Our rights are given to us by God. And so some of the rights we're going to say, you need to stand up for them, but it doesn't mean you're going to win in a lawsuit, but you at least need to know what your rights should be. And then many of the rights, and I'm going to highlight one of them for you, are actually protected by law. So right number 4 is employees have the right to organize and work together. Now, that sounds a lot like organized labor or unions, which generally conservatives kind of, shrivel up if they hear that kind of thing. But I would say the American worker needs to work together to fight back against woke HR today, because woke HR are actually the oppressors, right? They're putting you through the DEI training or the CRT training or any of the other alphabet soup of training that they've come up with recently. And so that's what we're trying to push back on. When can you stand up and say, you know what, I'm not going to come to that DEI training because it goes against my religious beliefs? Well, guess what? You're protected for that. Or what if all the employees got together after work and said, you know what, we want to sign a petition that we don't want a mask mandate or we don't want a vaccine mandate in our workplace. You are protected by law. And if they discriminate you after that, then you can actually win a lawsuit. And so we want to empower the American worker to stand up and be courageous, and then also understand the responsibilities that come along with those rights.
Brilliantly put and brilliantly conceived. Have you been able to gauge the impact, what the impact's been so far of the Employee Bill of Rights? Yeah,
we have had obviously many thousands of people download this. And we started to hear stories back from people saying, you know what, I went ahead and implemented what you said. I stood up for my rights in the workplace. And what I found out is that more than 80% of the people in my office agreed with me. They thought that they were on the same page with me, right? Neat. But conservatives were the largest ideological group in America, but we're the least likely to say anything. And he said all these other conservatives were just keeping their head down, trying to build their bunkers, stay out of the way, right? Us conservatives, we can walk with a rock in our shoe longer than anyone, right? We have very high pain tolerance. We'll just be like, it's going to be fine, live and let live. But that's not actually where we need to be today. We need people to stand up. So anyway, this person stands up at work, takes our suggestions, and lo and behold, finds out most of the other people in the office agree with them. And he said, and I was kind of like this rallying point where people are like, yeah, why are those 3 woke tards running the whole show when most of us don't want anything to do with what they're pushing today? And so that's been the kind of encouraging story. We've also had stories of people who were at, say, Disney and stood up and came out conservative, and that didn't go so well. They're no longer at Disney. But part of that is they didn't want to be there anymore, because when you are using your labor to bless a company that maybe hates life, maybe hates
Yeah.
children.
Yeah.
Why would you want to do that anymore? Because I'll remind people, if you're getting paid at work, your employer is making more money on your labor than you're getting in salary. And if that's
Right.
not the case, they should fire you. Right.
Right.
And so
Right.
don't think you're plundering the Egyptians necessarily when you're making that big paycheck from Google. They're making more money on you than you're making yourself. And so
Right.
encourage Americans, stand up for your rights, be brave, be courageous in the workplace. And if it costs you your job, no problem. Come on over to redballoon.work and we'll get you a new job, an employer that will respect your freedom and allow you to live your values out loud. And you have no idea how deeply satisfying it is to live your values out loud and have joy in the office again.
Yeah, the aligning of vocation and value. There's nothing like it. There's absolutely nothing like it. And it should be the goal of everyone, ultimately. Vocation and value. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the other thing that we're doing for employers today is trying to help them, because they're like, okay, well, I've hired all these awesome employees. I had one employer say, every employee I hire through redballoon.work is cleansing to my culture, because they're just hardworking conservatives who want to bring value. They're okay with me making money because they understand capitalism, for instance, which I think a lot of our politicians don't understand capitalism,
Right? That's for sure.
Right? But they understand
sure.
capitalism. They want me to make money. And so then we've been helping these employers say, hey, if you want more people like this, we can help you write job postings. We can actually do a cultural screen for you. If you want us to do a first interview, we can help you with your HR documents. If you want an employee manual that has no wokeness in it, but is actually just based on Proverbs, we can help you with that, but still legally vetted. We are trying to be the resource and the labor exchange for this alternative economy so that these employers can focus on their job of building their business, and we're going to help them bring the right employees in. They're going to be focused, joyful, and excited. And I'm very optimistic for where we're going in America right now.
That's so awesome, Andrew. You know, I noticed too, when I was on your site today, you also have a resource called Freedom Academy. Could you talk a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, so Freedom Academy is for our employers, although it will be for our job seekers as well soon. And look, we put together a bunch of resources from lawyers, from HR professionals, from a Christian worldview on how should you think about your employees? How do you build culture? Because we all know that culture eats strategy for breakfast. If you want to make more money in the marketplace, you need to have the right culture and the right employees to fill that culture up, right? Ben Horowitz, who is not a godly man, but he did say that culture is, the definition of culture is, what do your employees do when the CEO is not there? What do your employees do when the CEO is not there? So if you want to build a great culture, that's how you're going to make the most money and you're going to have the most fun in the work environment. So we have guides, we have systems on how do you build an interview system that will get the right people in the door and help them focus on the right things within your corporation. So all of this is part of that Freedom Academy. How do we help be the resource for the alternative economy for all these businesses, so they know if I do this, I'm going to have great employees who are focused in the right way to bless our customers, and I'm going to make the most money, which we're not opposed to. We think that's a really good thing.
Absolutely. Look what Elon Musk is able to do with it.
Yeah, right. Go buy Twitter or something.
go buy Google next, right? Peter Thiel, something like that. Gang, look, I always get so pumped up talking to Andrew. Everyone, look, one of the things that I love about having this platform is that it serves as a one-stop clearinghouse for all things faith, family, and freedom. We take care of each other. And redballoon.work is the single best resource out there for you to align your two professions, your work profession with your faith profession, right? It's a resource like no other to help you align your vocation and your values. And you definitely want to click on the link below, get your hands on the Employee Bill of Rights, make sure you're part of Red Balloon's online community. Andrew's the best. He's going to take good care of you. And Andrew, man, dude, every time you're here, I get so excited about the alternative economy. It's rising up all over I shouldn't even call it alternative, the parallel economy that's starting like Musk is doing. Musk is doing. Now it's starting to take over the so-called mainstream economy. So you're at the heart of it, man. And the service you have is like no other. So, dude, thanks for coming on with us. It's always awesome to chat with you, and we got to do it again. Keep up that amazing work.
Thanks, Steve. Always nice to see you. And yeah, I would encourage people, be brave, be courageous, because there are opportunities right now. There's market opportunities right now for any patriot who wants to hire people, who wants to find a job. We're still in a tight labor market. Go sign up at redballoon.work. If you post jobs, you're going to be an encouragement to Americans, because they know that if I am courageous at work and it costs me my job, that there are employers who have my back and will hire me. So it really is important that we work together on all this stuff, and the best is yet to come. It's very exciting.
Awesome, Andrew. God bless, brother. Keep up the great work.
Thanks for having me.